And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day for this greatest nation on God's green earth, a great day for the American military. President Trump tells Axios that there's practically nothing left to target in Iran. Now, this is a big country. It's a country of 93 million people. Nothing left to target? Well, there is total U.S. and Israeli domination of the skies over Iran. And the war continues to go well, despite the fact that the Iranians are now trying to plant mines and to block the Straits of Hormuz. Meanwhile, President Trump has acknowledged that his number two guy, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, was, quote, philosophically different on Iran, while President Trump is downplaying the split. Now, how is he downplaying the split? By basically keeping J.D. Vance as quiet as possible. Yesterday, Vance spoke at the International Association of Firefighters conference. Now, that's really not a great deal to do with foreign policy. And the joke is going around that next they're going to send him to speak at the National Sofa Convention in St. Louis. By the way, to the best of my knowledge, there is no National Sofa Convention, but there is that association with J.D. Vance, who appears to be receding further and further into the background, except that he is part of the Trump Shoe Club, which is a story in the Wall Street Journal, which is unbelievable, about how President Trump wants people on his team to wear the same make of shoes. What's surprising is, except for those sneakers that he sold for a while, I don't think he is actually selling these shoes himself. He's giving them away, but that is another story, but we will get to it. We'll also be speaking to General Barry McCaffrey, who's a friend of this show, who is one of the most decorated generals in all of American history. He is 4 combat tours and 3 Purple Hearts, and very active in the Council on Foreign Relations. General McCaffrey will help give us background about what happens next. And that background has already been provided by Brett Stevens, which we will cover, about the 4 possible outcomes in this war. Now, according to Brett Stevens, all of those outcomes involve a rapid conclusion of the fighting, something that won't go on for more than another month. Is that accurate? We'll talk about that with General McCaffrey. Meanwhile, President Trump announced major combat operations against Iran on February 28th, with massive joint U.S.-Israeli strikes targeting military and government offices. The Iranian state television confirmed that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was among those killed in Tehran on the first day of strikes. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, was chosen on Sunday of this weekend to succeed him. Iran is responding to the U.S. operation with missile and drone attacks targeting Israel, regional U.S. bases, and multiple Gulf nations. Israel is also intensifying its long-running strike campaign against the Iranian-backed terrorist group Hezbollah, that militia located in southern Lebanon, but largely being pushed further north, making Israeli targets less vulnerable. I spoke to my brother this morning in Jerusalem, and he's been sleeping recently in the bomb shelter at the basement of their house. I mean, this is not to give away his whereabouts, but basically that's easier than getting up several times a night because sirens go off. That has been decreasing. And again, what my brother tells me, having lived in Jerusalem for some 40 years, is that the public opinion is very different from what we have here in the United States because there is not much division on the war. People are in favor of it. They are pleased with its results, and they believe that they are going to have a better and safer world when this war concludes. The dispatch reports that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said yesterday that U.S. forces unleashed our most intense day of strikes inside Iran as part of Operation Epic Fury. That's what the American name for the operation is. The Israeli name is Operation Roaring Lion. In the 24 hours before Hegseth talked to reporters Tuesday, Hegseth said Iran launched the lowest number of missiles they've been capable of firing yet, which is very good news because it proceeds and some kind of end to the war. During the same press conference, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, said U.S. forces were making substantial progress in weakening Iran's navy. And in a Truth Social post Monday night, the president threatened to unleash death, fire, and fury. Well, it is Operation Epic Fury against the Iranian regime if it attempted to block oil shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, which has a direct impact on the popularity of the war because that has a direct impact on the price of gas. Iranian state-sanctioned media reported yesterday that Iranian intelligence officials arrested 30 people allegedly working as spies, internal mercenaries, or other on-the-ground agents on behalf of the U.S. and Israel in the last several days. The fate of those people, based upon past patterns in the Iranian theocracy, is not optimistic. They do have a capital punishment, and they try and convict and execute people fairly quickly. More news on the war from CNN. The latest attacks near Strait. 3 vessels were hit by projectiles near the Strait of Hormuz, the UK's maritime agency said. Sources told CNN Tehran had begun laying mines in the key waterway. Historic oil release. Countries have agreed to release a record 400 million barrels of oil in an effort to stem prices as the crucial strait remains effectively closed. Ramping up strikes. Iran claimed it launched its heaviest operation since the start of the war, and Israel said it had begun an additional wave of strikes against Tehran today. And the death toll. More than 1,300 Iranians have been killed since the conflict started, according to Iran's UN ambassador, and at least 570 people are reported to have been killed in Lebanon since Israel began its response to attacks from Hezbollah, the terrorist group in southern Lebanon. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, had a fractured foot and facial lacerations on the first day of the war, a source tells CNN. Coming up, we will be getting to Brett Stevens' analysis of 4 ways this war can end, and we'll be speaking to General Barry McCaffrey. All to come here on The Michael Medved Show. And on The Michael Medved Show, an Economist YouGov poll of 1,563 adults. The poll was conducted between March 6th and March 9th, found that 39% approve and 52% disapprove of Trump's handling of Iran. And his overall job approval was 40% approve and 55% disapprove. The same poll listed immigration as an issue, with 52% of the country, the majority, disapprove of Trump's handling, and only 45% approve. Inflation, worst of all. Inflation, 33% approve and 62% disapprove, almost 2-to-1 negative. This is why Republicans are rightly worried about the midterm elections coming up. And they're even more worried when the special election that was held in Marjorie Taylor Greene's former district, which is a very Republican district, the runoff election ends up being between a Republican who is still highly favored. It's a very Republican red district, and a Democrat who ran a surprisingly strong race. We will get to that and what that means politically, if that is just another danger sign about what is going to be a ferociously competitive series of races all across the country for control of the House of Representatives. This is about a House of Representatives seat in Georgia, and the U.S. Senate and governorships and more. Meanwhile, the news from Iran, the idea that Iran's supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, had a fractured foot and facial lacerations on the first day of the war. He had not been seen in public at all since his election on Sunday. And does that mean he is perhaps more seriously injured? No one knows. But again, the person in charge of the war now is somebody who, according to reports, lost not only his father, but his mother, his wife, and his sister were all reportedly killed in the first night of the Allied bombing against the Iranians. So expecting Mojtaba Khamenei to negotiate some kind of a ceasefire is probably a fantasy right now. Meanwhile, talking about fantasies, there was good news, believe it or not, on inflation. ABC News reports that inflation held steady in February, last month, maintaining price increases at the elevated levels in the weeks before the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran sent gasoline prices surging and stoked heightened concern about affordability. The reading matched economists' expectations. That doesn't often happen, but it happened this time. Fuel prices, on the other hand, rose in February as traders anticipated the possible outbreak of war with Iran, government data showed. Gasoline prices climbed more than 3% in February from a month earlier. That, according to the inflation report. Food prices climbed 3.1% in February compared to a year earlier, registering above overall inflation and maintaining their pace from the previous month. Prices rose 2.4% in February compared to a year earlier, leaving the inflation rate unchanged from January. That, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics data, in what they revealed today. Inflation stands slightly higher, just slightly higher than the Federal Reserve's target rate of 2%. And the idea that that is considered something of a relief and good news, at least by many, has a lot to say. Concerning the impact on oil supplies, there's a stunning story in the New York Times, a story that involves extremely candid comments and unexpectedly candid comments from Chris Wright, who is our Secretary of Energy, one of the less publicized members of the Trump cabinet, which is kind of a good thing for him because most of the people who've been highly publicized, it's because of some scandals. And by the way, big scandals today about what the former Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security spent on strange things, and even more spent by Pete Hegseth in the Department of War. And no, not on weapons, stuff spent on like lobster tail and steaks and fruit baskets. I'm not kidding. It's fruit baskets. We'll get to that. Even during the Israeli strikes against Iran last June, Mr. Wright said, this is Chris Wright, the Secretary of Energy, there had been little disruption in the markets. Oil prices blipped up and then went back down, he said. Some of Mr. Trump's other advisors shared similar views in private, dismissing warnings that the second time around, Iran might wage economic warfare by closing shipping lanes carrying roughly 20% of the world's oil supply, which appears to be what they're attempting to do right now. The extent of that miscalculation was laid bare in recent days as Iran threatened to fire at commercial oil tankers transiting the Strait of Hormuz, the strategic choke point through which all ships must pass on their way out of the Persian Gulf. In response to the Iranian threats, commercial shipping has come to a standstill in the Gulf. Oil prices have spiked, and the Trump administration has scrambled to find ways to tamp down an economic crisis that has triggered higher gas prices for Americans. Secretary Wright, the Secretary of Energy, said there had been little disruption originally when we bombed Iran in June of 2025. But the big story today, as President Trump weighed whether to launch these attacks on Iran, his energy secretary told an interviewer he was not concerned that the looming war might disrupt oil supplies in the Middle East and wreak havoc in energy markets. In other words, they ruled out a very obvious consequence and dangerous consequence of this war. And it is really those rises in the cost of gasoline and oil that help to determine the unpopularity of this particular war. How does that compare to other wars that we have engaged in recent years, over the last 20 years? It doesn't. This is far less popular. So where does it go and how does it end? We'll be speaking coming up to General Barry McCaffrey and more. And on the Michael Medved Show, the front page news today is that the United States says that we have 16 mine-laying vessels in the Middle East, Iranian mine-level vessels that we have struck near the oil route. The United States destroyed 16 mine-laying Iranian vessels, though President Donald Trump said in social media posts that there were no reports of Iran's planning explosives in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if there were no reports of them planting explosives, why is it and how is it that they went ahead and blew up 6 different mine-laying levels? It's actually 16 different mine-laying levels. Both sides sharpened their rhetoric, writes the Associated Press, sharpened their rhetoric as the war entered its 11th day, with Trump threatening to hit Iran at, quote, a level never seen before. He says that a lot. If the country fails to immediately remove any mines it might have deployed in the channel. In other words, he says they haven't planted anything in the channel, but they might have. And if they have, then he's going to hit them as they've never been hit before. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth promised the most intense strikes yet, while the Pentagon detailed the broader toll of injuries sustained by U.S. troops. Now, over 150 Americans reported being wounded in this war, along with the 7, or it may even be 8 at this point, who have died so far. The ongoing difficulty here is seen with the way that the immediate past is remembered and misremembered. For instance, in July 2025, President Trump posted the following Truth Social, and he said all 3 nuclear sites in Iran were completely and or destroyed or obliterated. And obliterated is in all capital letters. That was the word that President Trump used again and again and again, as did Pete Hegseth and the rest of his cabinet. We were told that the nuclear capacity had been obliterated in its 3 major nuclear development sites. And President Trump says in his posting it would take years to bring them back into service, and if Iran wanted to do so, they would be much better off starting anew in 3 different locations. I'm sure they appreciate the advice, Mr. President. Prior to those sites being obliterated, should they decide to do so, they should start anew. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And again, the question becomes, if those sites were in fact obliterated, if what the president said was accurate, then what are we doing now and why are we doing it? And earlier this week, President Trump claimed that he had made promises that, frankly, I don't recall, and that he had made promises to destroy Iran's nuclear capacity. Here's what the president had to say this week. This is clip 7.
On the very first day I came down the escalator in 2015, I said, quote, I will stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons. And all I'm doing is keeping my promise. Think of that. That was in 2015. I said it. It was a threat then and a much bigger threat now, but no longer a threat, not for a long time anyway. We want to keep it that way.
Okay. The Polyfact looked at that and whether it is true that when he came down the escalator, he promised he would prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Trump said that the agreement they had shaped with Barack Obama gave Iran the right to have top-of-the-line nuclear weapons. The nuclear agreement did not bless any Iranian right to nuclear weapons, top-of-the-line or otherwise. To the contrary, Iran could have acquired or developed a nuclear weapon by defying the terms of the nuclear agreement. That's because the agreement was based on Iran's continued adherence to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, which Iran signed in 1970. This treaty deems Iran a non-nuclear state, meaning it promised to forego developing or acquiring nuclear weapons. They rate President Trump's statement about him promising that he would stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons as false. And that doesn't mean that he is now acting in any way other than with determination to actually see that the nuclear program or any nuclear program that Iran develops is ceased, and if not obliterated, at least put to one side and profoundly slowed down. Josh Hawley, the conservative, generally very pro-Trump senator from Missouri, was on Fox News and suggesting that after the U.S. successes, particularly against the Iranian Navy, it may be time to just declare victory and go home. Here is Senator Hawley, clip 20.
Well, I think that he's achieved his objectives the way that he's laid them out. And you just put it beautifully, Jesse. I mean, what is there really that's left to do that we haven't already done? I mean, we have demonstrated to the world and anybody who's watching, by the way, that we have overwhelming military superiority and we know how to use it. We have totally destroyed forever their nuclear program. We have destroyed their ballistic missiles. We have destroyed their Navy. I mean, this has been a total success in whatever it's been, 11 days. And I thought the president's remarks last night that he could declare victory today and it would be a 100% victory. I think it's true. I think we ought to say to our heroes, thank you for a job well done. This has been absolutely amazing. It's been astounding. It's been historic. And now it's time to declare victory.
We will go over why that may not be quite as simple as Senator Hawley suggests. Concerning, by the way, that 2015 Obama agreement to rein in Iran's nuclear weapons capacity, that agreement did not, contrary to what Trump is saying now, allow Iran to legitimately possess a nuclear weapon. The problem with Trump's recent phrasings, experts say, is that he said the Iran nuclear agreement conferred upon Iran the right to have nuclear weapons and to have those weapons legitimately. That's, in other words, saying that it was Obama's and Biden's fault. That's false. Obama had campaigned on a promise to ensure that Iran did not obtain a nuclear weapon. The negotiated agreement was signed in 2015 by the United States and Iran, as well as China, Russia, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. That agreement was torn up during President Trump's first term. So what about the crucial question? How does it end? We will get to that and some of the views of Bret Stephens coming up here on the Medved Show.
Sign up today for our free weekly newsletter at michaelmedved.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
It is always a great honor to welcome back to the show General Barry McCaffrey, who is a MS Now National Security Analyst, a U.S. Army general, retired, 4 combat tours, 3 Purple Heart Awards. He's also been active in the Council for Foreign Relations, where he is a leader. JCS strategic plans in NATO, Brussels, and more. And I know you have been speaking out strongly on this war in Iran. General, do you believe that the war is close to conclusion or resolution? And if so, how does it end?
Yeah, well, I think nobody knows the answer to either of those two questions. Here's the challenge. I think from a military aspect, the naval and air power strikes on Iran have been simply stunning, devastating. They have largely set back that nuclear program now in a very significant way. Not just attacking, HEU fissile materials, but also the scientific structure behind it. They've knocked out a good bit of the Navy, the Air Force, the interceptor missiles. Their radar systems are down. So it's been a remarkable success. The question is, does it lead to changed behavior on the part of the Iranians, who now have only, I would assert, 2 keys left. One is terrorism in the international community, and the other is trying to drive the price of oil up, where they're capable easily of closing their Straits of Hormuz and keeping them largely closed primarily because of insurance cautions on the part of those behind these oil tankers. So it's a difficult question. Like a lot of questions, the real question is, how does all this end? And
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Trump started on this operation without engaging Congress, without engaging the American people, and without engaging any of our allies. So he's in a political mess and a favorable military position.
And okay, with the favorable military position, there's some question about reports today by the Associated Press and elsewhere that we have attacked 16 different vessels that were engaged in planting mines. And President Trump now wants the Iranians to remove those mines, to pick them up. First of all, is that even possible? And secondly, what is the likelihood that Iran is going to retract mines that they have already planted?
Well, just on face value, it's a silly, childish observation. If they put them in, why would they take them out? They're trying to drive up the cost of oil and cause immense pain, not just the United States, who doesn't rely on a lot of Middle East oil, but to China, to Japan, to Western Europe, et cetera. So, of course, they're not going to do that. But I think, in addition, that narrow 21-mile stretch through which 20% of the world's oil goes, it's going to be almost impossible to guarantee not just mine warfare, but that they don't have a continuing ability to fire ballistic missiles targeted at oil tankers. So until the Iranians decide to stop fighting, a good bit of that oil trade is going to be at risk. I don't see how the military can ever get, the U.S. military and Israelis can get to 100% guaranteed that you can go through the straits. Plus, in addition, being the close friend of many naval officers, the last thing in the world the U.S. Navy wants to do is be escorting ships into the Persian Gulf. I mean, you got a flash to bang time of mere seconds when somebody fires a missile at you. You can't maneuver. It's shallow water. I think the Iranians still have some mini submarines, diesel electric. So it's too risky, really, to put the Navy into combat inside the Persian Gulf.
So what happens? I mean, do we simply complete fighting and complete destroying Iranian military resources until what? What's the decisive step that the United States can take to bring this war to a conclusion?
Well, in logic, of course, President Trump called upon the Iranians for unconditional surrender. We actually didn't do unconditional surrender on either Japan or Germany, strictly speaking. Last time we actually did it was General U.S. Grant in the Civil War. So he's called upon the Iranians to give up. He wants to select their political, religious leadership. These are incredibly stupid statements designed to keep the Iranians fighting. Plus, the new Ayatollah, the son of the last Ayatollah, we just finished killing his mother and father, his sister, and his wife. So he may not be inclined to view us favorably in short-term negotiations.
Which is something of an understatement. Why, and you have had a great deal to do with America's primary allies and our NATO allies. Why has the Trump administration made no effort to build a new coalition of the willing to reach out to get the kind of allied support that could be very important in the economic aspects of this struggle?
It is impossible to understand Trump's motivation. The great Western democracies, economic powerhouses, Germany, France, the UK, the NATO alliance, shared values. He has gone out of his way to embrace Putin and this dictator in Hungary, Orban, and to alienate fundamentally all of our NATO allies. It's just impossible to understand. He just told the UK, I don't want your military help. You're two carriers. Forget it. We've already won. We don't need you anymore. These are like eighth grade statements to alienate our allies. And we're going to pay a price for this, too. I think much of the globe, the civilized globe, has decided that the U.S. is out. We're no longer the linchpin of international security, and they're now creating new arrangements, economic, political, military.
Applies to our ability to broker peace in Ukraine. Not much likelihood or even discussion about that right now.
Well, he's, on the face of it, an ally of Russian aggression, of murderous Putin attacking a country in the heart of Europe that identifies with the West. We have stopped giving them any U.S. Military, economic, or military support. It's a great tragedy. I think Ukraine is still going to come out as a sovereign nation. Western Europe standing behind them strongly. The Russians are in a basket case of dictatorship and economic troubles. So Ukraine probably will make it anyway, but we have lost all credibility with our serious allies, certainly in Europe, but I think also the Japanese, the Australians, the South Koreans, others are looking at this volatile government by decree, government policy choices by whimsy, and they're saying we can't trust these people.
So right now you think the chances of any kind of negotiated peace or ceasefire even in Iran is far-fetched?
Well, if the Iranians were smart, they'd talk, and they are smart. As long as the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, maintains their dominant security position in Iran, and as long as they don't lose their corrupt control of 50% of the Iranian economy, it's possible they'll come to some kind of a deal. But at the end of the day, this is and they have been battered. I mean, their proxies are on their knees. Iran is a basket case itself. So they ought to talk. Who knows? They should be desperate.
Well, let us hope that we do move in a direction of victory for the United States. Thank you, General Barry McCaffrey. Very much appreciate your taking the time for us. Also, if you're listening to us right now, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is available at Michael Medved Official, just those 3 words. And thank you, General, for all of your dedication and contribution in behalf of this greatest nation on God's green earth.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.